If you're wondering what happened to the man who put Brexit to the vote during his premiership and then ran away when he didn't get the result he was expecting, well, here's an update. David Cameron, it has been revealed by the Daily Mail, met with Oliver Dowden in a private members' bar in Mayfair, known as a place where Boris bashers frequent, weeks before Mr Dowden resigned. Now, by all counts, they denied that there was any link to Mr Dowden's subsequent resignation after the double by-election loss. But what on earth could they have been discussing? The mind boggles. But it seems somewhat of a coincidence that whilst Boris appeared to be blindsided by the announcement, many others didn't appear that surprised. Some are calling it a Cameroon plot. A source close to Mr Cameron's people said this: DC, as in David Cameron, did meet with Oliver Dowden last month. He routinely sees Oliver from time to time, like he does many former colleagues and friends. But he had absolutely no prior knowledge of or involvement in Oliver Dowden's resignation. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? Others coming out of the woodwork are failed ex-Tory leadership candidate Remainer Jeremy Hunt, who failed to plan effectively for a pandemic, and it could be argued during his tenure as Health Secretary, he also failed adequately to get it funded. Leadership failure Remainer Theresa May, who went back and forth in her kitten heels, unable to secure any sort of deal with anyone during her attempts to get Brexit done, despite claiming to be a difficult woman. And ex-Chancellor Remainer George Osborne, the architect of the austerity measures, which it is often argued led many to vote to leave the EU. Word is that the plot may well be hatching to try to destabilise Boris Johnson. And names that have been bandied about for potential leadership include Education Secretary Nadhim Zahawi and Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Tom Tugendhat. Others expected to run are Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, Health Secretary Sajid Javid and the dreaded Jeremy Hunt. I think they've all missed the point, actually. In my poll yesterday, I asked our audience, who do you blame for the by-election losses? And I gave them 4 options: disgraced MPs, Boris Johnson, Tory infighting or Tory policies. And the resounding result from almost 3,000 voters was that Tory policies were by far the main reason why the by-elections were lost. Yesterday, when I spoke to Anne Widdecombe, she said this:
make sure the policies happen, which will mean that Brexit is totally irreversible. And to do that, you need a Brexiteer as PM, and you've got one. And think of the risk that you run of getting a Remainer or getting a pseudo-Remainer if you get rid of Boris. Those two are big Brexiteers. What are they thinking of? What are Baker and Britain thinking of?
So if I were them, I would stop massaging their failed egos and being so self-centred to think about the good people of this country in the grips of a cost of living crisis that, in my view, was created largely by the policies of this current government. Instead of trying to grow our economy out of this nightmare, they decided to tax it, resulting in stagflation, with both wages and prices rising way too fast, perpetuating further inflation. At this point, I wouldn't care if donkeys were running this country, although I do draw the line at Sir Keir Starmer. Who leads this disaster is the least of their worries. Just sort out the mess that you've all created. Otherwise, you're all out.